Why 2022 will be the best year for crypto investors. Before this video starts, you should all know this video is not financial advice. And now to the video. Well, I know what you're thinking. Are you insane? Well, I'm going to tell you why this time is different. Why it's a great year for crypto investors and a terrible time for those who don't invest. In 2022, the world will have been on a full-fledged currency war for over 5 years, with each country desperately trying to devalue their currency against everyone else so they can boost exports and reduce inflation. And since no country wants to be caught without enough gold reserves or U.S. dollars as collateral during a currency war, there'll be an unprecedented race to build strategic stores of precious metals, minerals, and petroleum products, including cryptocurrencies, across the globe over the next 5 years. After all, Bitcoin may prove difficult to build up a war chest for, but there's no problem stockpiling petrol. Meanwhile, due to the increasing corporate and personal debt in most developed countries, interest rates will have been at 0% for over 5 years. This means that central banks around the world are desperately trying to devalue their currencies so they can get a little growth going without sparking inflation or creating more debt problems. They'll target anything that gives them even a small amount of control on money supply, including cryptocurrencies. In fact, many economies already have negative interest rates below zero, which has led some countries like Japan to consider abolishing cash altogether and go electronic only. This will all push up demand for cryptocurrencies as people seek safe havens for their wealth. And we all know what happens to a bubble when demand goes up. This is on top of the next wave of adoption that will happen where leading banks, corporations, and governments will be pushing their own cryptocurrencies as they realize the advantages of distributed ledger technology. These coins may not necessarily be open source or decentralized, as many won't trust them as much as Bitcoin. But they'll still help push up demand for other coins by adding more fiat pairs with cryptocurrencies outside their borders. And you can bet none will want to miss out on blockchain technologies if it means an edge over their competitors in this new currency war. That's right, these are the good times for crypto investors because all this money printing and trading wars mean one thing: inflation. And since we're already in a currency and debt war, and governments and banks want to get rid of cash, you can be sure that all this money printing isn't going to just disappear. Far from it. It'll enter the economy through financial markets like stocks and property, pushing prices up further. But there won't be enough people making money, so they'll look anywhere for returns, including cryptocurrencies. Remember, these coins are also a store of value outside their native countries' fiat currencies, so they should rise with inflation too. And if you're thinking, what about security? I hear you. Say, don't worry, dude. I'm not telling you to invest your life savings because you'll have plenty of time to cash out. In fact, you could probably cash out a few times over the next 5 years as fiat currencies fail around the world and Bitcoin becomes increasingly more valuable. In fact, I think that after 2022, it's unlikely any country will have a working central bank anymore. They're just going to be printing money until inflation skyrockets. And by then, there won't be enough gold or oil in the ground for them even if they wanted to use those as collateral during another currency war. Who needs banks? So is now a good time to invest? Well, not if you're looking for quick gains, though I wouldn't say no to some free Dogecoin. You see, most people are only comfortable with the idea of cryptocurrency as a medium of exchange, not as a store of value. And that's why we'll see another crash this year before the big boom, which will be starting any day now. Well, at least I hope and think. A huge crash in the Bitcoin price is needed to get rid of all the casual investors who bought at the top, or will buy this year. You see, it's like I always say, there's no good time to invest, only bad times. And right now, despite what people think about price bubbles, we're nowhere near a bubble, not even close. People are still anxious about the idea that they'll lose money, which they won't, and that can be enough for them to jump back into anything almost no matter how high the price goes. And if you know anything about cycles, then you'll know that each boom is bigger than before because each bust is bigger than before. People got so badly last year, they've been waiting for this year to cash out, and they'll be sorely disappointed as Bitcoin continues its path toward becoming a new global currency. But it won't take another year or two before people start getting nervous again about their paper money being devalued, which will push up demand for cryptocurrencies once more. And the cycle repeats, each time with a boom closer to a bubble and a bust that's bigger than the previous one. Which brings me back to my original point. Do you know how long Bitcoins last? They don't. They're destroyed every 10 minutes by the nature of their design, where only 21 million coins can ever exist. And since we have less than 15 million left right now, mining them is going to get harder for the rest of us who are late to the game. But guess what? This is where I was planning on ending the video. But then I realized that even if you're not interested in cryptocurrencies, you should know about one of its most important benefits, decentralization. Because right now our finances are pretty much controlled by banks and central governments, which is why it's almost impossible for someone without a lot of good credit history to get a loan or mortgage these days. You've probably seen this story before. It's hard out there for millennials who carry decades worth of student debt, live in an uncertain job market, and can't afford property because they are competing with buy-to-let landlords and international investors, and putting aside the fact that millennials of today will probably be the most competent and capable people who've ever lived. They're still a lot luckier than their grandchildren. Why is that? Well, because by the time most of them have retired. Well, Bitcoin has been around long enough to know better not to say anything too stupid here. In fact, it's so smart, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and check back in 5 years with another video update. Make sure you subscribe if you want updates on what we'll all be doing then, which will probably involve trading goods and services using cryptocurrency as well as controlling our own fates and planet, rather than letting corporations and tyrannical governments control us like cattle. Of course, there will be lots to talk about, from the advancements in broadband technology and virtual reality to how we'll finally have a sensible drug policy. Because let's face it, drug prohibition, which is responsible for countless deaths around the world every year, or what to do with all those unemployed people who will probably exist by then. But for now, I want you to think of something a lot more simpler, a problem that can easily be solved using cryptocurrencies. This is where my video would end if I was really smart. But here's the thing. Just as our generation has to deal with student debt and precarious jobs, so too will future generations have problems that we can't even imagine right now. Which means just as we're learning to use new technologies that will inevitably have a big impact on how we live our lives, so too will the generations coming after us. And cryptocurrencies are going to be one of those technologies because they're decentralized and hard to control. Which is why with every Bitcoin transaction, you'll be doing yourself a favor, as well as your kids and grandkids, by learning about them now. You don't have to make the same mistakes as the previous generation by ignoring this problem, because if you do, it's not like Bitcoins can fall in value or anything. You should find an expert. I'm kidding, but seriously, I know this stuff can be confusing, but don't worry, I've got your back, most of the time. Make sure you subscribe for more videos like this, because I'm definitely going to be making more. Some people say that cryptocurrency is the future of finance, and maybe even the future of society as a whole. All I know is that whatever happens, cryptocurrencies are going to be an important part of our lives in some way or another, due to how technologically advanced we've become as a species. We can do things now that were impossible just 30 years ago, which means you should find an expert to learn from so you don't miss out on this opportunity. Well, shit. Maybe it's time we all started learning about these things ourselves instead of relying on corporate puppets and snake oil salesmen. If any of you want my help getting started with cryptocurrencies, then let me know in the comments down below, and we will make sure to make more beginners-like videos. We will see you guys on the next one. Until then, have an epic day.